Well, what a day it was yesterday, but we're back again for day two here at Misano circuit at the Adriatic for the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Qualifying kicking us off once again this morning. As I said, a day filled with firsts, I suppose you could say. Matteo Di Paolo coming out and taking his first victory, winning here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine for the very first time, along with Trident, who have managed to pull off their first victory in the whole history of the series, managing to take victory here the first time around here in 2025. So now coming into this, leading the championship, of course, with Matteo Di Paolo. My name is George Morgan, back in the commentary box for you once again as we now look ahead to yet more action here in the championship with Misano once again hoping to deliver once more for the likes of Matteo Di Paolo, but also Freddie Slater looking to come back. Here's another man who got caught a little bit yesterday. Did not manage to get off the starting blocks leading into the formation lap, did Tim Gerhards, but the Dutchman looking to return this time here with Santalok Racing Team. The sun's still beating down, but no way near as hot as it was yesterday afternoon, more akin to what we saw yesterday morning in qualifying. The air temperature currently sat at 20.7 degrees, and the track very much the same as well, 20.7, and matching humidity a very sensible 43%, so not troubling anything at the moment. But in the meantime, we do have highlights going back from race one yesterday as well. Let's take a little bit of a look back because the start was quite fraught, wasn't it? It wasn't the best of starts at all for Freddie Slater, who on the escape coming off the start-finish line made his way through turn one. It was Matteo Di Paolo, though, who stuck his Trident nose cone in front of the Prema as they then ventured into turn two. There was contact, of course, between the number 11 R-Race GP, that being Jin Nakamura, who would end up receiving a 4-place grid penalty for today's race two off the back of the incident he sustained with Freddie Slater. Eventually, we got back underway after the safety car, and a superb move there from Jack Beaton, who is marking his debut appearance in this championship alongside teammate Freddie Slater up the inside as well. We also saw some great moves off the billing from the number 23 of Enzo Dellini from R-Race GP as well. Enzo Peugeot also looking to mix it up. He would tie up later on with his teammates as well after surpassing the Trident car of Ruiki Liu. Side by side once again, this time for Kasper Stuka, who would end up sliding around where we lost Freddie Slater and Jin Nakamura earlier on in the race. But then we had the big fight taking us through to the checkered flag over second place on the podium. It would eventually fall the way of Evan Giltaire, but the winner was Matteo Di Paolo. His first victory in Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, and Trident's first as well. So now onwards to today, and we get to do it all again, don't we, folks? It was a truly remarkable Trident appearance for Matteo Di Paolo, moving across from Santalok Racing and now finding a new home and seemingly adjusting himself well. Also a young man that's going to be looking to adjust himself well to this season is Nandavud Biran Bhakti. Of course, his family are very well known in the racing scene. Piti Biran Bhakti, also a GT3 racer in his own right. And come to think of it, we talk about Jack Beaton, a second-generation driver. I was chatting to him earlier on today. His father, Justin, is a karting national champion in their home nation of Australia. So no doubt he's going to be cheering him on. I had a chance to speak to Justin yesterday, obviously cheering on his son here at Misano. It's great to have, obviously, these drivers bringing their immense support bases along. We've also seen some incredible support bases across the realms of motorsport coming in to meet at Misano here this weekend. We did mention it briefly yesterday, but Jin Nakamura, of course, part of the Toyota Racing School. He has got Kamui Kobayashi just in his corner this weekend, hoping that he can blossom on from, obviously, yesterday's mishap that led to the 4-place grid penalty after tagging the back of Freddie Slater, ultimately spinning him around. There's always an opportunity to come back for the young man and right the wrong from yesterday. Another man who's going to be hoping to right the wrong is Evan Giltaire, but we'll get to him later on. Of course, he was unfortunate to miss out on the top spot. It was just a very good Matteo Di Paolo performance to gain the fastest time in Group A yesterday. They'll be coming up later on because this time it's roles reversed, as you all know, or if you're new here to the championship here at Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Over the 2 qualifying sessions we run across the weekend, Group 2, or Group A, I should say, Group B, they will head out, with Group A going out first for qualifying 1. But when we head to qualifying 2, it'll be Group B heading out first. And that is just to enable both groups to have the opportunity to have a track that's been rubbered in with the same Pirelli tyres, and at the same time benefit from the track generation as such, as it starts to build up in temperature, allowing the drivers to push a lot harder and gain more lap time as well, benefit from that additional grip that is being left out there on the circuit. But now with 12 minutes and 40 to go, we will expect obviously the first couple of runs here, the out laps at the moment, just be essentially build-up laps to enable the drivers to get adjusted to the circuit, and at the same time make sure they've got the temperature into the tyre to unleash their flying runs. New tyres on the car ahead of this session, which will then ultimately take them into the race later on. Remember, they do have 2 sets to use over the weekend. 2 sets of dries, 2 sets of wets. So it's all about management. Of course, those tyres kindly supplied by Pirelli, who are obviously well known to supply the very best in world motorsport, and certainly no less this championship as well. Of course, certified by the FIA, as we now watch as the car number 11 of Jin Nakamura on his return. Obviously, like I said, subject to the 4-place grid penalty, which he's hopefully going to try and sway this time around, given his efforts during the race. And that's exactly what he's going to need to do. Bring his absolute best to the race coming up later on today. Now, we are going to be going racing a little bit later here tonight. Obviously, the go time is set to be 6:30 this evening. Local time, of course. Obviously, that's dependent on where you are watching from in the world, as we now watch Freddie Slater make his way around. He'll be looking for a better run here this time around. Obviously, qualifying went superbly for Freddie Slater, the Italian F4 champion. But off the back of the start, losing out to Matteo De Parlo, didn't get the launch off the line, and Slater was the first to obviously acknowledge that, knows that he'll have to dig a little deeper and keep pushing. But it just goes to show that there's many opportunities out there for various drivers across the grid to do well. We're seeing the first times flow inwards now. Valerio Rinicella now starting to embrace the 141s. We've got Giovanni Maschio in second as well on his return this season to RPM. As now Tim Gerhard's coming back in this time into second fastest. Good to see him back out in the car as well. He'll be hoping to get himself underway, get his first racing laps under his belt later on this afternoon. But first and foremost, needs to get this qualifying session off to a superb bang. But this is brilliant for Rinicella to come in with a new team that is brand new to this series, coming into the realms of 2022, competing here in this series after an early start in F4. And David Lee, we had a chance to speak with the other day, just learning a little bit more about the championship. They've had plenty of testing time as well. They've had various drivers coming in to take the seat in the car, including Matteo Capietto and also Alex Sauer, or should I say Suter as well, who's come in to test the car. Of course, we've had 3 different pre-season test sessions that have taken place, with Misano also hosting one of them. We also went to Barcelona and Paul Ricard, just giving those drivers a chance to embrace this, should I say, the Tartus T318 chassis that has the 1.8-litre 4-cylinder Renault turbocharged engine, delivering 270 horsepower at 6,000 RPM. Freddie Slater now going to the top with a 137.333. So now we're into the 130s this time. Taito Kato going into second fastest, just 2 seconds behind now. Slater whips the tail out on his Prema, as they now fly over the curbs and now down through this next segment as well. Heading down in towards turn 8 with our Miquet corner. It's one of the quite a heavy braking zone, a progressive bend where you need to be mindful of your execution of the brakes and also the accelerator. The exit is oh so vital to teeing up the perfect lap. And one thing we did see from Slater yesterday was that ability to gain lap time on lap time. His qualifying pace was undeniable yesterday. Absolutely sensational performance. We're seeing the deltas come cascading down this time. Ricky Liu now up at the very top, of course, just dropping Slater down into second place. Nanda Vidbiran Bhakti going third fastest as well. So that is 2 Trident cars inside the top 3 as it stands. But do expect that time to come cascading down. Taito Kato in P4 with Enzo Dellini currently in 5th. Here comes Freddie Slater, no doubt to improve once again. Has been really stacking the delta times now, and now crossing the line. We'll go to the top once more with the first 129 of the session. Enzo Dellini pops into second fastest with a 130.517. Nakamura moves into third, also in the 30s, but a 130.713. Enzo, now dropping to 5th as Jack Beaton moves into second. Prema 1 and 2 now as it stands. Rashid Al-Dahiri, who gave a grand account yesterday, battling Evan Giltaire all the way to the start-finish line at the end of the race. Pops himself just over 9 1/4 tenths behind Freddie Slater in 4th fastest. Spoke to him yesterday and he mentioned that obviously the mitigation of push to pass between both he and Giltaire. Giltaire on the final lap acknowledging to me this morning that he was ultimately conserving them for the end of the race, therefore was able to hold on to that stellar P2 visit. Just want to say as well, Freddie Slater has found major improvements again in split 1 and split 2. First sector, just over 2 1/4 tenths improvement and nearly a whole half a second improvement coming out of split 2 as well. Freddie Slater is on a rampant run. And I'm sure he's got the bit between his teeth, especially after what happened yesterday where he was spun round coming through turn 2 and now coming through the final corner with 6 minutes and 25 to go. Taito Kato now joining the 129 club, but Slater is going to decimate that current top time that he is already enlisted, and that's the first 128 of the session now. It's starting to cascade downwards even more. 128.895 and just over 7 tenths faster than Dellini. Nakamura goes into second fastest as well with a 129.527. Enzo into 6, and now Jack Beaton into the 129.5s, putting 2 Prema cars in the top 3 with Nakamura in between. Welcome Al-Dahiri, another Prema car inside the top 3 this time around. Beaton now down in 4th. Dellini has found 15 thousandths in the first sector. Slater has found another unbelievable 1.5 tenths. Still more time to find around this circuit. Remember Matteo De Paolo's fastest time yesterday in Group A's opening run. Remember, they did the opening run yesterday, as I mentioned earlier. He did a 128.794. So we're not currently at that point just yet. Slater is close to it, a 128.895. As Biran Bhakti pops into 6th, Kato down in 7th. Ricky Lewis had a time deleted as well for track limits at turn 8. So that'll be taken away from him, unfortunately. Freddie Slater again ushering in yet more times as well. Another 1.5 tenths, as I said before, in split 1. 2 tenths gained in split 2. And another 2.5 tenths in sector 3. Now this looks like it's going to be sending itself well and truly into the very early 128s. And indeed, as Slater crosses the line, that's a 128.5. And beating Matteo De Paolo's opening group run of a 128.794 to put him on the front row. Slater has surpassed that here in the opening session. Dellini goes second fastest with Taito Kato down in 3rd. He's in the early 129s. Jack Beaton moves up to second fastest. There's Al-Dahiri, who now crosses the line into 3rd. Or should I say second now? He swaps with Jack Beaton crossing the line. And within half a second of Freddie Slater. So the driver that's embracing the Yas Heat livery, bringing the heat here at Misano. And at the moment, it's a Prema story at the very top of the shop with 4 minutes to go, unless someone else has anything to say anything about it. There's Nanda Vidbiran Bhakti, the young man stepping in Trident this season. About to round the final corner to take the start-finish line once again. The 18-year-old from Bangkok, Thailand, moves into 5th fastest with a 129.365. Made his single-seater debut back in 2022 with F4 UAE and ADAC F4 as well as Italian F4. Took part in the Central European Zone F4 with PHM with 1 podium to his name. Debuted in Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine last year with Kick Motorsport. Now since moving across to Trident. Of course, we look back at some of the brilliant Trident drivers we've seen in the past. You can't look past the likes of Tim Tramnitz, as well as Leonardo Fonaroli, who went on to win the F3 Championship. And now Roman Belinsky as well, moving on, doing so well in F3 in the start of his new season in 2025. But it's all Freddie Slater at the moment. The young Brit came off the back of winning the Italian F4 Championship last season, looking to follow suit and go back-to-back, much like Andrea Kimi Antonelli did back in 2023. The young 16-year-old Freddie Slater took 15 wins in Italian F4 last season, also winning the F4 UAE Championship with Mumbai Falcons last season as well. But also prudent in Ginettas, winning back-to-back championships in both Winter Series for the juniors and also the mainstay Junior Series as well. So now we watch the 45 of Jack Beaton, as I said before, second-generation talent, but also so successful in his own right. The young man from the Gold Coast, 17 years of age. Was 6th in the Australian Car Championship, the KA4 junior class. As Taito Kato moves 4th fastest with a 129.118. Jack Beaton now will cross the line. Slater with a 128.548 is the fastest time to beat thus far. Aldahiri was 2nd. Now it's Enzo Dellini who started to bring the pace here to Misano. Half a second away. Jin Nakamura now pops into 3rd. So R-Ace GP started to turn the screw. But what about Rashid Aldahiri, who's now making his way up towards the lines, or already been redeemed of his P2 position. We've just got just over 1 minute or so to go here in the session. And Dellini finding more time in the first sector, 42 thousandths in his pocket. Nakamura also improving, so R-Ace now are looking to take the fight. Tim Gerhardt pops into 9th fastest. There's now Biren Bhakti. Rounds the final sector himself. Ricky Lewis, teammate, pops into 9th with a 129.466 as he crosses the line. It's now Biren Bhakti who will look to do the same. Can he jump up any higher than P7 just now? And certainly he can. P2 now from Nandavad Biren Bhakti. A crucial moment here in this qualifying session with only 30 seconds on the clock. It's now or never for the rest of the drivers on this grid. And Dellini, whilst putting in a 42 thousandths improvement in the first split. Not quite as good in split 2 or split 3, but a huge opportunity for some major gains here. As now we watch as the R-Ace GP car makes its way up towards the line. Where's it going to go? Dellini, 2nd fastest with a 128.6. That brings it just a 10th outside of Freddie Slater. Here comes Nakamura, 3rd fastest. R-Ace GP now redeeming those P2 and P3 places. Enzo going 7th fastest. Here comes as well Jack Beaton, looking to rise himself up the order as well. 5th fastest for him. That's a slight improvement with Aldahiri now popping back into the top 3, going 3rd fastest with a 128.8. Giovanni Maschio going 9th fastest as well. But at the moment, it's Freddie Slater, and it will be Freddie Slater. The checkered flag is out. The 16-year-old Brit, who was fastest and took pole yesterday, is fastest once again today in his group. But the big question is, will he be a pole sitter back-to-back in consecutive visits to start the season? I'm sure the likes of Matteo De Parlo, Evan Gilter will have something to say about that. But nonetheless, in comparison to yesterday's opening group run, obviously Matteo De Parlo's time of a 128.794. Today we're a whole 2 tenths or so faster, 2 tenths plus faster than that time we saw yesterday. So credit to Freddie Slater. Taito Kato going 7th fastest on our screens at the moment, but certainly nothing that's going to trouble Slater's time at the top of the timing sheets. Massive job as well. Massive well done, Enzo Dellini. on returning back. Only a 10th outside of the spectrum on Freddie Slater, and that's a brilliant result for our race GP, with Rashid Al-Dahiri making it a Prema 1 and 3 here in this group. So it's provisional pole for the time being for Slater. Obviously, that can change a lot, but we will wait and see with another 15-minute session to come as to whether that status quo for provisional pole will remain the same. But good session as well for the likes of Nandavud Biran coming back in as well, just over 3.5 tenths out of the realm. Let's go through the classification then at the end of the first group in qualifying 2. Freddie Slater is your provisional pole sitter for now. First fastest in his group, 1:28.548. Enzo Delaney second. Rashid Al-Dahiri in third. Jin Nakamura in fourth. Nandavud Biran fifth. Jack Beaton in sixth. Taito Kato in seventh. Rui Hengye in eighth. And Giovanni Maschio ninth. Ruiki Liu in 10th place. We can look further down the order as well. Running through from P11, Tim Gerhards, the Dutchman, back again. Hopefully you'll be able to get off the line this time and undertake the formation lap. Valerio Rinicella for CL as well, finishing just in behind too. And certainly, last but not least, Sakir Al-Moushari will start from the back end of the field for the race coming up later on this afternoon. But next up, of course, here in Q2, we've got Group B heading out. Obviously, some familiar faces we witnessed taken to the track yesterday. We'll run through the list of drivers that we will be seeing in this session. Matteo De Parlo from Trident, who, of course, set the fastest time in the group yesterday. Evan Gilter, who, after speaking to him today, there's only one position he wants from all of this today, knowing the pace that he has. Obviously, remember, a race winner at Hockenheimring in our opening round last season with ART. Has spent 2.5 years with ART as it stands, who have produced such great drivers in the past. Of course, we look back, Gregoire Saucy winning the championship back in 2021. Gilter would love to do the same for ART as well and break the status quo of, mention that phrase status quo, there has been a trend of Prema drivers snatching the driver's title ever since 2022, where, of course, Dina Beganovic would go on to take the crown. And then the season following that, Andrea Kimi Antonelli with Rafael Camara taking it last season. We also have Pedro Clero, who had a superb end to his race yesterday, finishing ultimately in 4th place. But for Clero, he was packing a lot of pace towards the end and was nestling in some really fast lap times towards the end. Incidentally, I think taking the fastest lap overall towards the end of yesterday's race. So a great meeting for Pedro Clero, who started 6th on the grid, ultimately finishing 4th. So that would be a 12 points accrued for the Van Amersfoort team. Kanato Lay, who unfortunately found himself dropping down through the order quite a bit. Wasn't an easy visit for the ART man. Of course, teammate to Evan Gilter. Kanato Lay starting 8th on the grid, eventually finished 11th in yesterday's race. Nikita Bedrin for Sansalot Racing will also feature, with Hayu Yamakoshi for Van Amersfoort Racing, Ashke Bora in our race GP with Kasper Stuka after the spin yesterday, looking for a reprieve this time. Remember, 20 starts in FIA Formula 3 for him last season. Also have Enzo Peugeot back in at RPM, fresh off the back of a few battles with his own teammates yesterday. They were running wheel to wheel. And that was, of course, the battle between Rui Hengye and Enzo Peugeot, who's not afraid to go for the big moves. Dion Gauda also featuring for Van Amersfoort Racing. They've got 3 cars in the mix here, with Eduard Borgner and Arthur Goethe for G4 Racing, and then Axel GP back again, this time with Aditya Kulkarni in their debut weekend. Of course, the team hailing from Milton Keynes, led by, of course, Matthew Norman, the team manager, joining us this season, of course. But Axel GP, with already a decent level of history in single-seaters, have not had any testing time throughout the course of the winter, leading through to racing here this season in the championship. But an opportunity for them to learn, that's for sure. And after speaking to Dion Gauda, funnily enough, a few drivers ultimately suggesting the same, that they've taken an opportunity, whilst the race might not have necessarily gone to plan. Dion Gouda, the rookie race winner yesterday, suggested that he's expected to do more, I think, through the course of this season, and obviously is hoping for more. He mentioned that yesterday's outing gave them an opportunity to gather extra data and looking to build on this performance, essentially using it as a testing template to kind of fuel future runs. So he'll be hoping for some bigger results as we make our way through the calendar. And speaking of that calendar, we've got 10 rounds to bring you through the course of this season. After this Acci Sport weekend here at Misano, we've got Spa coming up next for round 2 on the 16th to the 18th of May. And then after that, a trip to Zandvoort to the Dutch circuit, home of the Dutch Grand Prix, on the 6th to 8th of June for round 3. Budapest in round 4 on the 4th to 6th of July. And Le Castellet for round 5 on the 18th to 20th of July. That surpasses the halfway point then as we head to another Acci Sport weekend, or Acci Racing weekend, for round 6 at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix home, Imola. That's on the 1st to the 3rd of August. With Spielberg coming up next, we go to the hills of the Styrian Mountains for round 7 for the 5th to the 7th of September. Barcelona comes next for round 8, and then the penultimate round 9 at Hockenheim Ring, before we have the grand finale of all finales, Monza, the Temple of Speed. Another national home of the championship in its own right, and that will be on the 24th to the 26th of October, where hopefully the title will be decided. But the big question is, leading from now to then, who is it going to be? Plenty of new potential future stars looking to follow in the footsteps of such great champions we have had in the past. Many of them now, obviously a special year this year for the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, with 3 former drivers making their way to the pinnacle of the sport, with Isaac Hadjar moving to Racing Bulls, Andrea Kimi Antonelli moving into Mercedes, and Gabriel Bortoletto finding home at Kick Sauber for this season. 2 of those, incidentally, RACE GP drivers from the past. Obviously, Andrea Kimi Antonelli taking sprint pole, heading into the Miami Grand Prix weekend. So we obviously want to wish a massive congratulations to him. But obviously the race did not quite go to plan. But some building blocks there, though, for the new Mercedes driver, as now we see the first times rumble on in. Kanato Lay ushering in the fastest of them so far with the first 1:41 of the session. But as we all know, we'll expect that to come crashing down later on, as now Kasper Stuka moves into 3rd. We've got Edward Borgner going into 4th for G4 Racing. Arthur Agurta into 6th fastest, as we now take a look and watch on as Arthur Agurta peels through the first sector of the circuit. Only times not yet set from Matteo De Palo and Aditya Kulkarni, the young Brit. But De Palo just making his way around split 3 at the moment. Fastest driver in split 3 as well at this stage, but Kanato Lay starting to warm up. Matteo De Palo now popping into first fastest. He's getting used to that already, isn't he, folks? Registering the first 1:30 of the session. That's a 1:38.847 for the young Italian, now a race winner here in this championship. And it meant a great deal to him, with being an Italian weekend. And he is, of course, supported by the great Giancarlo Fisichella, of course, former Formula 1 driver. And a phenomenal talent as well, most recently taken to the circuit in the realms of Italian GT. And also has been quite the supporter of various young talents across the grid. And Matteo De Palo was very keen to praise him during our post-race interview yesterday. Evan Gilter back with us, as well as Yamakoshi goes into 3rd fastest. Pedro Clero into 7th. Obviously still early days, plenty of time for the times to kick on up, as Enzo Peugeot pops into 5th. Gouda down in 9th. As we now watch as the carburetor of Matteo De Palo still vigorously warming those tyres up. He's already found 2.1 seconds in the first split. Some massive gains as well for Kanato Lay, Yamakoshi and Gilter. They have all found 3.5 seconds plus in that first sector, and it's a mighty 5.2 second gain for Gilter and a 5.3 second gain for Kanato Lay as well. So now we're going to start seeing the first of the faster runs here this time, with all the preliminary runs set in place, with the tyres now ingratiated. Remember, new Pirelli rubber. for all of these drivers looking through to the second race of the weekend. Last lap for De Pallo as he crossed the line was a 1:34.222. Still a ways off. We'd expect a time to be within the realms of 1:28. And it's a 1:28.548 to beat to take pole position here this time. Aditya Kulkarni goes into second. Evan Gilter comes in with the first 1:20 of the session. That's a 1:29.615, but usurped by Kanato Lay, who goes first fastest. Grand display from Kanato Lay. Also representing the ART unit is Pedro Clero, goes 0.2 of a second quicker. Dion Gouda up to fourth. Van Amersfoort with a car on top, and now in P4 with Gouda taking that place. The rookie winner from yesterday, Akshay Bora, now down in eighth as Nikita Bedrin pops into fifth. So the time still aggressively coming down, and more gains can be found in split one, and certainly have done. Clero finding time. Kanato Lay, Yamakoshi, Evan Gilter, who has also found another 0.2 in that second sector as well, as we now watch as Matteo De Pallo comes around the final corner, exiting out of turn 16 at Misano. And now across the line, it will be first fastest again for De Pallo, a 1:29.3. We're getting closer to those 1:28s. And whipping the tail out here this time around is Evan Gilter. As I said before, after speaking to him this morning, there was only one ambition, and that was pole. And that's exactly what he's looking to take from this session. Indeed, the young Frenchman who has been superb on the run-up to taking part in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, and now looking to break ahead of Mathieu De Pallo and go fastest. That's a very early 1:29, looking to break to within those 1:28s. Kanato Lay joining him. ART now with two cars at the very top. Yamakoshi popping his car into second fastest as well. So more to come as Clero re-enters his name to the front. Very nearly 0.2 quicker than Evan Gilter. Dion Gouda fifth fastest. More gains can be found from De Pallo. He's very nearly a 1/10.5 up coming out of Sector 2. Kanato Lay finding 18 thousandths in Sector 1, as now we see more times coming in the Santa Lock ushering in Nikita Bedrin with the first 1:28 of Group A here in Q2. 64,000 separating him and Pedro Clero as it stands, who is still improving. Matteo De Pallo, though, who we currently see on screen, just over a 1/10.25 up coming out of Split 2. 66 thousandths, though, coming out of Split 3. Looking to re-enter his name right back up to the top, surpassing Nikita Bedrin with his own 1:28 of the session. De Pallo does with a 1:28.672. We're a hair's breadth away from snatching that overall pole position. And with the way the deltas are faring right now, it looks like that could just only be around the corner. Bedrin finding 20 thousandths, 200ths. In fact, in Sector 1, losing a bit of time, though, in that middle sector. More time found by De Pallo. He's found 12 thousandths. With a mighty 10th found by Pedro Clero as well from Van Amersfoort. There he is now. Coming around the final corner through Misano at turn 16 up towards the line. For Van Amersfoort Racing, can Clero snatch P1 here with 4 minutes and 50? Not quite. 1:28.7. He gave a good account, but we got Nikita Bedrin improving. De Pallo's improving again. 29 thousandths coming out of the second sector, but needs a mighty third sector as well. Gouda in fifth, Peugeot into ninth. As now Akshay Bora goes fifth fastest. Bedrin up into second with a 1:28.717. 45 thousandths between the top two. 58 thousandths between the top three. Here comes Matteo De Pallo again. He's nearly 2/10 up, coming through the third sector, and is looking to close this one off, potentially snatching a pole position away from Freddie Slater with 4 minutes to go. Can he render Slater's time out of that pole fray? He goes and sets a 1:28.374, confirming that it will be Group A taking pole position ahead of race 2 coming up later on this afternoon. But will it be De Pallo on pole position? We will have to wait and see. 3 minutes and 3/4 of a minute to go. And the heat starting to pick up, and now the drivers started to cool down for their final runs that are going to come up just before the checkered flag comes out, but Mattia De Paolo back again and capitalised off after all the drama. That phenomenal start, first and foremost, to yesterday's race. And looking to make it a double race weekend win for Trident, who only celebrated their first ever victory in the championship yesterday. I mean, what a time to go back to back. I'm sure the likes of Giancarlo Fisichella will be watching on with great delight wherever they're tuning in from, of course. I mean, we obviously know that he is a grand supporter of young talent, is Giancarlo. Mattia De Paolo speaks very highly of him, and also, of course, his family, who have been such a grand support base for him. Now, hold the phone. We have got more improvements coming in thick and fast. Evan Giltaire, the proprietors of at least two of them. He has found 81 thousandths out of split one, split two, 43 thousandths. So improvements in hand for the Frenchman. And there is still time for potentially two more runs, with now the clock ticking with 2 minutes and 20 still to run. Pedro Clero also finding time. Yamakoshi losing a little bit of time in the middle sector despite finding 17 thousandths in the first sector, as now we watch Giltaire entering around the final corner for ART and sprinting up towards the line. The Formula Regional Middle Eastern champion looking to unseat Mattia De Paolo from the top. Will only go second fastest, though. Not enough to topple Mattia De Paolo. Was 31 thousandths beyond coming out of Sector 3, and De Paolo has gone quicker again. Has found 43 thousandths coming out of Sector 1. The Trident driver is certainly not done yet, but neither is Pedro Clero, who now also crosses the line. Was fifth fastest, crosses the line to go second fastest this time with a 1:28.544. Just over 1.5 seconds away from De Paolo. No one can quite get close. No one can get within a tenth, or should I say within a whole tenth of a second of Mattia De Paolo just yet. It is still the Italian who stands aloft. He has lost time, though, in Sector 2. But there is still over a minute left, and maybe just preparing for one last dance around the Misano Adriatic circuit. Here at the Misano World Circuit Marcio Simoncelli. This could yet be a sensational pole here for Trident as Mattia De Paolo looks to get set and prepped, ready for one last chance saloon to consolidate his time up at the top. Nikita Bedrin, half a tenth up in the first sector himself as well, still up on his time coming out of Sector 2. 34 thousandths to the good as it stands. But it's a 1:28.374 to beat. There's Bedrin, who packs a lot of junior racing experience in the realms of single-seaters. We welcome him back once again, this time various karting successes between the years of 2016 and 2020. Was an Asian Karting Open champion also back in 2017, as now the young 19-year-old waltzes his way around Misano corner. Has raced with a few teams here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Dion Gauda going fourth fastest. Here comes Nikita Bedrin, enough for fifth fastest. Lost a... Did not quite crunch the lap time coming up towards the start-finish line. De Paolo is improving again, though. It's 700ths gained in the second split for Mattia De Paolo. But Giltaire has found 74 thousandths. The checkered flag has come out. Enzo Peugeot is at a time deleted due to track limits at turn 16. As Edward Borgner enlists a 1:29. That's a 1:29.880 for him, as now around the final corner comes De Paolo. He lost a bit of time coming off the back of Sector 3. Is it going to be enough to hold on? Is it going to be enough to improve at all? Takes the checkered flag. No change in his lap time, but does still retain for now the P1 lap. But Evan Giltaire may have something to say about it. He has found a storming 2 tenths or more coming out of Sector 3. This could be a sensational closure to qualifying here ahead of race 2 coming up later on this evening. Now, storming up towards the line, the Formula Regional Middle Eastern champion, Evan Giltaire for ART. Can he take pole position? Yes, he can. Evan Giltaire takes provisional pole away as the checkered flag comes out. We will await to see whether that is pole confirmed. By the looks of it, as more cars come across the line to take the checkered flags, no one is going to surpass that. A monstrous 128.206 from young Evan Giltaire. And if you get what I mean from the logo on the front of his helmet, I'm sure he's absolutely loving it. A phenomenal session for Evan Giltaire. He left it right to the last minute. Had to defend to the last in yesterday's race to hold on to P2, despite the approaches from Prema driver Rashid Al-Dahiri. Well, it's a different story this time. He will be on the front row, sharing it with Freddie Slater. The two combatants from the Formula Regional Middle Eastern Championship earlier this year will meet once more. Evan Giltaire, fastest, and pole position goes his way for ART, a 128.206. Then Matteo De Palo in second. Pedro Clero third. Then we have Dion Gauda with Akshay Bora as well in fifth. Nikita Bedrin in sixth place. Hayu Yamakoshi in seventh. Kanato Lei eighth. Enzo Peugeot down in ninth. Kash Pastuka in 10th. Edouard Borgner in 11th. Aditya Kulkarni down in 12th. Then we have Arthur Goethe down in 13th place. Well, what a phenomenal visit indeed from Evan Giltaire. A phenomenal visit. He's a pole sitter for the first time this season in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. And do join us this afternoon, folks, as we go racing at the time of 6:30 local time. Till then, goodbye.